listening in and listening to the stories and interviews and so forth. Today we have another guest, special guest of Dr. George Carillet, who is an intern in East Europe. Dr. Carillet, would you like to introduce Michael Householder and your history and go on?
Sure. Michael Householder and I have a long history that goes back to 1975 in Vienna, Austria, and East Europe. And I'm delighted to have him join us to tell some missionary stories. But to begin with, I would like for him to tell what he's been doing since 1975 in brief, and then to talk about the impact of the internship. And then, of course, those delightful stories that enrich us all. So, Michael?
All right. Well, I will begin with the beginning of everything that happened, and that is in Johnson Bible College, now Johnson University. And the year before, our 1974, Brother Timar from Hungary came and spoke in chapel. I imagine you remember Brother Timar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, he came to the campus and one night was speaking. And at that point, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I was going to be full-time service for God somewhere in the world. I had told God when I was 17, I'd go anywhere and do whatever he wanted me to do. And that was my commitment to God. Well, Brother Timar came and he says, I come to bring you a blessing. And I thought about it, and God hit me in the head and says, why don't you go and try to give them a blessing? And so at that point, I said to TCM and to Gene Doolin, who was the head of it, I said, hey, sounds like something that I'd like to do. I'd like to come and see if I can be a blessing to the work that you have going on and behind the Iron Curtain. And so that was the impetus in me going, the first spark in my mind and my heart, which led to what I am doing even today. Once God showed and worked miracles, and I mean really miracles, and I'll share some of those stories. And I know you, George, have seen these miracles as well. But these miracles and these touched by God that God did through our group that summer and many other summers kind of created this passion in me to do mission work around the world. Now, I went on and finished at Johnson and got an MA at Lincoln, MDiv at Cincinnati, and doctorate at Fuller in church growth, and went on and worked as a pastor, minister, whatever you want to call me, in a church. And in that time, what happened was I started with 30 people, and in 1 year, we went to 90. I baptized 60 people in the first year. At that point, I began developing what's called church growth system, disciple making material and system to help churches to grow. And so I revisited Poland, other countries after our time together in 1975. And then after I got married a few years later, my wife and I went to Russia full time for 2 years, worked with Reggie Thomas and some churches that he had started. Then we moved for 5 years to Poland and worked there in Poland for 5 years, and was probably going to stay there, because Poland, out of the 5-6 countries that we went into, Poland and the people in Poland really grabbed my heart. And so I was planning on staying there. And then my wife got cancer in 2000. We came back for a year of treatment. And so they said, well, the next 5 years, she needs to be here every 6 months. So I said, well, there goes full time on the mission field. And so I kind of retooled things in a sense and started traveling short term around the world. And now we, in the last 7 years, I've been working in Cuba. We have hundreds of churches that's been trained in Cuba now in the disciple making system. Every 6 months, I challenge them and train them how to double in 6 months. And almost every case that's happened in Cuba. And we're also in Haiti and Dominican Republic, Brazil, among other Myanmar, among other countries, and more will be opening up. But guys, really blessed. What started in 1975, and I look back and I say, we spent 3 months together, George, and that was, enlightening for me and impactful for me as I've just shared what it's done. And so I feel like you were instrumental in all the work that I've done. You could have been a jerk and everything could have went haywire, and I said, "Nah, I am going to do this stuff." But it was a great trip, a great time, and you was very gracious and a very great mentor during those 3 months that we did what we did behind the Iron Curtain. And so I appreciate the time with you, and also the time that we're going to be spending together. We've made trips already to Cuba together, and look forward to more of our partnership in the future with Global Church Growth and your ministry partnering together. So I look forward to what will come and some plans that we're in the mix right now. So.
Wow, that's pretty cool stuff.
So you ready to hear some stories from the 75 internship?
Yes.
Ready, Michael?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Householder.
I also want, we're not recording now, are we?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was going to say, and I could just go ahead and say while recording, that I am working on a book called Stepping into the Mist. And it's a kind of a life story of all my travels around the world. And so these stories plus many, many more will be a part of my 2-volume book, Stepping into the Mist. So anyway, there's a plethora, I love that word, a plethora of stories that took place while we were together. And like I mentioned before, Poland was, I guess that's a good place to start. I'll just share, going into Poland. And during that time, 1975, everyone, I don't know if everyone knows, probably a lot of people, young people today did not know, but it was under socialistic, communistic, total control. And they were not allowed to have Bibles. And that's why we took Bibles in. And what I thought was neat was George, an organization, TCM at the time, said, "Now, I'm not going to tell you if there's any Bibles in the van. I'm not going to tell you where they are, if they are there. You just go in and you're there to work with us." And he didn't really say it, but I think what he really meant was that we were decoys. And we were bait, in a sense, but and so what it was, and I understood it, that if we were asked, we didn't know whether anything was there or not. So it was a protection, number one, for us, I think, and it put all the responsibility on George, and so we appreciated that. And so we were one of the things that it was illegal for the youth to meet, and they couldn't get together religiously and meet during that time in 1975. And so there was one trip that we took into the countryside, and we got to this place, and they had told me, and we had been told, and we had experienced that they greeted men with the holy kiss. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's all right." And he said, and I was told that mostly they'll kiss on this side and on this side, and that's it. But then there's sometimes that they'll kiss a third time on the lips. And I go, "Well, I don't really want that experience." But, we went to this one farm out in the country, and their goal was to wait till nightfall, and we were to sneak into the woods and meet with the youth that were meeting illegally. And so, but when we went to this preacher's house, he was probably 6'5". You know, I don't know. I was 20 years at the time. I'm still the same size, 5'10", 5'11", but he was big, huge hands, probably 6'3", 4". I don't know, but he grabbed me on my two shoulders. He came back with one kiss on the right, one kiss on the left, and he's coming back a third time. And I says, "Oh no, not the lips." And so as he came down, I went quickly to the left and he kissed me on that cheek. And at that point, I realized how an unshaven, stubbly man feels on a woman's clean face. I'm not saying I had a clean, but I felt his nubs on my face and scratched my face there. But I didn't want him to get those lips. So I'll always remember, that experience. So that's one of the stories.
Cultural introduction.
That was the cultural introduction. Exactly. Let's see. Well, I think it was Poland. Yeah, this was a miracle. But going in across the border the first time, and was Poland the first place we went that year? I can't remember if it was or not.
I don't know, quite likely, and then we worked our way south, but I don't remember for sure.
Well, anyway, I know when we crossed the border, the car in front of us was completely searched. They tore off the hubcaps, they took the radiator caps off, they took every person's suitcase, their clothes. We watched them meticulously take their underwear, every piece of clothing, go in the hems, and just the whole hillside was just full of this one car's total belongings exposed. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, if they look into our place, if they look into our van like that, they're going to find the material that's there, that should be there, that's probably there. I don't know if it's there, but they're probably going to find it if it is there. And I said, we need to be praying. And so they get to our van, and I don't know, George didn't ask me to do it. I thought all this stuff was intriguing. So I got out of the van and went back to the back to watch the guard, which was probably not a smart thing to do. We probably should have just stayed in the van and just kept our mouth shut or whatever, but I don't know. I thought this was neat. So I got out, and it was a God thing that I did. My suitcase had one compartment. You opened up the big compartment. Then on one side was a side pouch at the length of the suitcase. And then on the other side was two side pouches. And in one side pouch was half and half personal stuff like fingernail clippers and, stuff like that, pencils. But the other half was full of religious bookmarkers and religious pens and little tracks. I don't know if George knew I had all that stuff at that point. But anyway, it was half and half, and they were all at first had rubber bands around them, but they had all busted and everything. So everything was just all mixed up, personal and religious. Well, the guard pulled my bag out first, opened the inside up, went through the underwear, opened the big side up, went through the shaving cream and the lotion, went through every bottle, opened up the big one, and went through every piece of clothing that I had. I was going, oh my goodness. If the guard pulls out all that religious stuff out of that one pouch, they could go on and, really make a mess. The hand went in and the hand came out with nothing but personal. Not one piece of religious material came out in that hand. Impossible. It was all mixed up. Put the stuff back in, zipped it up, says on your way. So I don't know how wide my mouth was open at that point, but I tried to keep it closed so it wouldn't, but it was just amazing, what God did in that, at that instant. So the Lord was always with us as we did travel. And I remember there was one of the vans the year before, or that year was caught at the border with Tyrrell. I think it was the year before, wasn't it? That the van was caught. And someone,
During an internship thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought I'd heard that at
I'm
one
not
point.
remembering. Because I know it happened with me in Bulgaria, where I was interrogated through the night.
Yeah. Well, and that anyway, I had heard that Brother Andrew had gone through and that he had tried to hide the stuff, and they confiscated all the material, his van and everything.
Yeah, I know Brother Andrew had problems with the southeastern countries, Romania, Bulgaria, especially. They lost vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know.
Thinking,
Yeah,
I
and
don't remember
one of ours was,
interns, but I know that he did. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I had heard that one of ours, at some point in one time, they had found material, but because it wasn't hidden, they let you go and didn't take your van and stuff like that. I just felt like what that is that God says, hey, you're willing to trust me in faith and have it right there and not hide it. I'm gonna trust you. So that was just a testimony, to me.
Yeah, unlike Brother Andrew, we did not use secret compartments.
Right. And that's what impressed me, that as you told us, suitcases were all there. We all had our own suitcases, but there was some, and that reminds me when we was in Romania, and the capital of Romania. And so there was 4 of us interns plus you. And so this is the only time it happened. The preacher came and picked up the other 3. And he said, and you said to me, Mike, I want you to stick around. Just want to let the other 3 go on and just stay with me. I said, that's fine. That's fine. It was daylight, probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And you said to me, he says, okay, Mike, I want you to pick up these 2 suitcases, and I'm picking up these 2 suitcases, and don't ask me anything. Let's just start walking. And so we started walking, and I said, I don't know what's happening. But a few moments later, the preacher came back, picked us up. I went back to his house, I assume. We went into the garage, closed the door, and we gave him the books. And you told me, you said, there's KGB that was following us. And so that's why we did what we did. And I was told a month, 2 months later that preacher was put in jail for what he was doing. So not sure if that was because of what we did or what other things, but it was just impressed that one little book could bring fear upon those who don't want the truth. And I can see that all around the world, especially even possibly here in America in the future, that one little book can be hate speech when you don't believe what it believes. And so the truth will set you free, and that's what it does for the Christians. And so, I have some other stories. I don't know how much more time we've got here, but
got about 5 or 6 minutes.
All right. One of the things, we were in Hungary, and we were with Brother Timar, and this is kind of a funny thing, but wasn't funny at the time. It's kind of scary at the time, really. And so we were after services, Brother Timar took us all up into the countryside, and we had a picnic. And so we were eating our picnic, and I had my camera with telephoto and everything. And I don't know you, I do a lot of professional photography as well, and so I had my camera. That was kind of the beginning of travel photography for me. And I was, trying to take pictures here and there, and all of a sudden I pulled it up, and there was this machine gun sticking in my face. And I didn't even see the guy walk in. I don't know how he got there. I guess you all saw him, but I was so preoccupied with taking pictures of the area that I didn't reckon he just appeared in my camera. And so I pulled it down, and he grabbed it, and he started to open it up, and Brother Timar said, no, and started talking to me. And so he didn't rip it open, because at that time it was film, and all I had to do is open the back up. It was gone, you were done with. And so I thought, oh there goes all my pictures. And Brother Timar talked him out of it. Come to find out, the road was kind of like a U shaped. And we had just gone up just a little bit into this road. Well, all around it, the open field, all around this U road was a forest. Well, unknowns to us, there was a military installation in the forest behind those woods. And so we were being watched the whole time that we were there. And so when I started getting my camera up, and it was illegal during that time to take any pictures of around any military installations. And so I guess it still is. And so anyway, so, when you see a machine gun in your face, so that was right. So praise God, Brother Timar was able to talk him out of destroying my film pictures.
Michael, host, did you have something you wanted to say?
Michael, host for the household.
I think you were just going along with the story because you were picturing being there. That's how I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
A scary situation.
I've had a gun pointed to my own head, so I could picture this easily. And that's nerve-wracking, but God's providence, and also in the situation where the soldier put